Hello, welcome to another Tendercom video. Today I will be explaining what is a Certificate of Acceptability, or COA, and also what you need to apply for a Certificate of Acceptability and the steps you need to take to apply for Certificate of Acceptability. So, what is a Certificate of Acceptability, or COA? A Certificate of Acceptability, or COA, is government-issued document that authorizes a spaza shop or tuck shop or a restaurant or any business premises that handles food, whether by storing, packaging, processing, or transporting the food to legally operate and deal or interact with the general public, ensuring public health or safety, is adhered to at all times. From the definition, one important thing to take note of is that everyone that deals with food or anything that the public is expected to consume is required to apply and obtain a certificate of acceptability. This applies even to hotels, street vendors, and outsourced vehicles that transport perishable food. A private household that handles or prepares its own food, and a nonprofit that hands out food for free to the general public are exempted, but they must have proof and record of where they get their food. Government Regulation R638 on Certificate of Acceptability. A person may not handle food or permit food to be handled on food premises in respect of which a valid certificate of acceptability has not been issued or is not in force, and this also applies to an outsourced vehicle used for the transport of perishable food on behalf of a person in charge of a food premises in contravention of a restriction, condition, or stipulation contained in a certificate of acceptability. A person in charge of food premises wishing to obtain a certificate of acceptability in respect of the food premises must apply in writing to the local authority in whose area of jurisdiction the food premises are situated, on a form containing at least the particulars that are substantially the same as those contained in the form in Annexure A to these regulations. Upon receipt of an application referred to in Subregulation 2, the local authority must, without delay, refer the application to an inspector for consideration. An inspector may, in considering an application, request such further information as may be considered necessary or expedient from the applicant or from any other person. If an inspector, after having carried out an inspection, is satisfied that the food premises concerned, having due regard to existing conditions of the adjacent land and facilities, subject to the provisions of Regulations 4-2 and 14.do, in all respects comply with the provisions of Regulations 5 and 6, the inspector must recommend to a local authority to issue a certificate of acceptability in the name of the person in charge on a form that is substantially the same as the form in Annexure B to these regulations. If you do not, in all respects, comply with the provisions of Regulations 5 and 6, a local authority may, subject to the provisions of Regulation 4-2, grant an extension for a maximum of 6 months to enable the person in charge to change or equip the food premises so that the premises comply with the provisions in question. The provisions of subregulation 1 do not apply to the person in charge during the period of extension granted in terms of aforementioned point. The issuance of a certificate of acceptability does not constitute an approval for the applicant to conduct business on the premises concerned without complying with all other relevant requirements of the local authority or the applicable legislation. The local authority may, on the strength of the recommendations made by an inspector, issue the certificate of acceptability. A person may not effect changes in respect of food premises for which a certificate of acceptability has been issued in terms of Subregulation 5, relating to the provisions of Regulations 5 and 6, without informing the local authority in advance and in writing of such changes. A certificate of acceptability must be displayed in a conspicuous place on the food premises, in respect of which it was issued for the information of the public, or where the display of the certificate is impractical. A copy of the certificate must immediately be made available, on request. If the person in charge of food premises is replaced by another person, the person in charge must inform the local authority, in writing, of the replacement within 30 days after the date of the replacement, and the local authority must, subject to the provisions of Regulation 4-2, issue a new certificate of acceptability in the name of the new person in charge. A certificate of acceptability is not transferable from one person to another person and from one food premises to another food premises. is valid in respect of the nature of handling set out in Section E of the application for a Certificate of Acceptability and in Section E of the Certificate of Acceptability. May at any time be endorsed by a local authority by the addition of any further restriction that may be necessary to prevent a health hazard, and the removal of any restriction with regard to the category or type of food or the method of handling may expire temporarily for the period during which a prohibition order issued under regulation. 4.2 is in effect, expires permanently if a prohibition order referred to in regulation. 4.2 is not removed within a stipulated period, which period may not exceed 6 months from the date on which the prohibition order was issued, and expires permanently if the provisions of Subregulation 8 and are not complied with. A person may not make unauthorized changes or additions to, or forge a certificate of acceptability. Subject to the provisions of Subregulations 8 and 9, a certificate of acceptability issued prior to the commencement of these regulations, in terms of the regulations published in Government Notice Number R 918 of 30 July 1999 and Government Notice Number R 962 of 23 November 2012, is considered to be a certificate of acceptability issued in terms of these regulations. Despite subregulation above, Subregulation 1 applies to all food premises, including those on government premises, from the first day following a period of 1 year after the date of promulgation of these regulations. What you need to apply for a certificate of acceptability: identity document, company registration certificate, proof of business address if applicable, floor layout plan, zoning permit, EMS fire certificate, trade license or permit. Steps on how to apply for a certificate of acceptability. Step 1. Get your premises and staff ready. Ensure the premises are clean and sanitary. Ensure there is proper storage of food and other items or equipments. Disinfect your premises. Ensure there is running water, hand washing stations, and waste disposal systems or tools. Ensure the premises is not dark. If dealing with packaged food, ensure they all display the expiring date and are properly labeled. Paint your premises with the right color. For example, do not use black to paint the kitchen. This is because when dirty, it is not noticeable. If dealing a premise that handles food, ensure your staff wear clean clothing at all times, including clean aprons, hair cap for food handlers, disposables gloves when handling food, and should avoid wearing open-toed shoes, sandals, or heels. Step 2. Prepare your documents. Go to your local municipality to obtain the exact requirements and ask questions where you do not understand. Compile your documents, such as floor plan, certified copies of ID or passport, register your business, obtain zoning permit, EMS fire certificate, and other documents. Complete the application form. Step 3. Submit your application. Submit your application at the municipality under which your business operates. Step 4. Other matters. Once application has been submitted, a health inspector would visit your business premises to ascertain whether it complies with hygiene and safety standards as outlined in Regulation R638. If the inspector is satisfied with the health, hygiene, and safety standard of the premises, he would recommend that a certificate of acceptability be issued to your business. However, if not satisfied, he might afford you a period of up to 6 months to rectify the issue. The certificate of acceptability must be displayed in your premises at all times and must be visible to the general public. Remember that compliance is an ongoing thing. Therefore, the fact that you have been issued with a certificate of acceptability does not mean you must neglect health and safety standards. Remember that the certificate can be revoked in the case of non-compliance. Remember that at Tendercom, we can help you obtain the necessary documents you need. We can help you register your company, get tax clearance, get shares certificate, and more. Feel free to visit our website and contact us for any queries.